All right, it is a Thursday, and that means football is back for another week as we have Saving Thursday for Bet Victor in Calgary, dressed up as a traveling Yager. Ooh, which was once. Myself, Ryan Pinder, and out in Vancouver, we have Tyson Cole as one of the Teletubbies. What's the green guy's name with the awkward phallic thing on his head?
Dipsy today. Dipsy. Yeah,
right.
we got a crew of all four of us, but just solo Dipsy today.
Blue, yellow, red, and green. Just the primary-ish colors, and there you go. In lighting, it's green, red, and blue, and if it's paint, it's red, blue, and yellow. Those are your primaries. So very good.
Color lessons with Ryan Pinder. Love to hear it.
Pardon me?
Color lessons with Ryan Pinder.
Well, there you are. Yeah. It's because I thought it was like, well, the primaries is just yellow, red, and blue. But then you work at TV a bit. No. It's green, red, and blue. We mix those. Oh, okay. The light frequency is different. Okay. Jack, what are you dressed up as today? How are you, producer Jack? He's in Calgary with me.
No costume today. Strictly business. We're here to make some money.
I'm
just kidding. I forgot at home. It's been a long week.
It's Thursday.
You
know what? You know what you need? You need to watch Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets fumble the bag again in prime time. It feels like every other week they've been in prime time, Tyson. We got them again. It is the Houston Texans visiting MetLife, somewhere near New York. It's actually in New Jersey against a Jets club that has lost 5 in a row. We'll get to some of the storylines here, but it is a banged-up Houston club that's won 4 of 5 against a talented 5 loss in a row Jets club. It's a really fascinating one tonight, Tyson, and we'll get to some picks in a moment. But really quickly, is this a good Thursday nighter? Does it have potential, or is it kind of like maybe we have some bets? I'll care.
I don't know. Like if you were at the beginning of the year, this looked like a great game.
Yeah, it sure did. Yeah.
But now we've got some injuries on both sides of the ball. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's Thursday. It's a short week. I'm hoping for a good game, but we've kind of been spoiled on Thursday considering what it used to be. So maybe we were in for a stinker tonight.
It is important to remember where we were. It used to be like the color scheme, pastel, bad team only, low scoring, awful. We didn't want to watch it anyway, but it's the only game of the night. That was the schedule. And then Amazon spent $1 billion US a year for the rights, and now you're getting the stars, and you're getting teams that people thought would be good in the preseason or in the summer off season. Mm-hmm. The Jets and the Texans are that. The Jets surprised with that rookie sensational season of CJ Stroud, a playoff team, and the Jets. It's like, well, once they get Aaron Rodgers healthy, I mean, gosh, this could be just a star-studded team. Garrett Wilson's finally going to have a quarterback throwing the ball. Oh my God, the Jets are going to be so good this year. That was what they're thinking in the middle of spring or winter, whenever the scheduling was done.
For sure. And I mean, the Jets are jetting right now. I mean, they've been able to, put up disappointing season year after year. And, I guess Rodgers isn't the savior that we thought he was going to be.
Yeah, it doesn't appear. At least he's got more pals around, though. So if he's going to suck, at least he'll have friends nearby. One less friend. We'll get some news of the day. There is some breaking stuff today. Let's start with where we're at in the universe here as we enter week 9 of the NFL season. We've seen a couple spots where quarterbacks have been rotating, and I think what's caught most of the press in the last 4 or 5 days has been Anthony Richardson. Oft injured, but very talented young quarterback in his sophomore season with the Colts. Hurt often meant Flacco, come on in and play a bit. Signing made sense there. He's looked good. Then Richardson's healthy, and now we got a bit of an issue because old Tony Richardson's not much of a fibber, and sometimes the truth can get you in a bit of trouble, Tyson.
Yeah, I mean, that was ridiculous. I mean, you love the players being honest and everything because you normally get like the media trained guys who are not going to give you much information. But I mean, there comes a point where you just gotta lie, and at that point, like you should have said, "Oh yeah, I got winded," or something like that. Like if you got that's a legit excuse to just don't come out and say, "Yeah, I'm tired." I quit on the team.
Technically, it's just probably out of a lack of cardio shape. Now, Jack, do we have the clip? So let's go check in with Anthony Richardson, who's had a tough time staying healthy, but when he has, we've seen his legs be a big part of the Colts offense. He tapped the helmet after a play as if to say, I need out, put someone else in, and then returned soon after. He was asked about it post-game after he loss to the Texans, who we will see tonight.
Man, tired. I ain't gonna lie. That was a lot of running right there that I did, and I don't think I was gonna be able to go that next play. So I just, just told Sam I just needed a break right there.
I mean, it is football. There's a lot of running involved, right, Tyson?
Yep, you're a running quarterback. That's your job.
Said, my lungs weren't feeling right. I just, I was a little off, and I just thought it would be best to check it out with the trainer and then get right back in. And we did that. I mean, it's saying the same thing, just framed so much more better.
I know, for sure. But I mean, it's kind of a good thing. Did you see the stat line at the bottom there? 10 for 32.
Even when they won early in the year, and I think it was actually they lost to Houston, who, again, we just saw them against last week. It was the first of the two in the season series. He completed 7 passes, but like 2 of them were these monster bombs to Pierce, and he ended up with like really respectable totals, but like 7 completions or something hilarious like that, like single digits. And you're like, I don't know what Anthony Richardson is. And last year he was only healthy for like 4 full games. It's the jury is very much still out on him. There's clearly a lot of leg talent. There's a monster arm there. Can he be durable? That seems to be the longest bet at this point. And then the other thing is he a guy that can run the offense and do it by just finding open guys rather than heaving or running and getting tired, which apparently is an issue.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to work on the middle of the field. That's like the short passes he's very inaccurate at, but he does have all the tools. He just needs to put them in the toolbox, So I'm hoping he can kind of figure it out, but let's not forget, this is pretty much his rookie year. Cause like you said, he only played 4 games last season. So he's still very much working through a lot of this stuff. And also I believe he only started 1 year at Florida. So
hurt back.
He hasn't played a lot of football.
No. And in the NFL, it's been injuries, but you could see the raw talent, and I guess maybe that is why this is the right move by the Colts, or maybe it's why it's not the right move for the Colts, because he says this publicly and everyone's like, is this a reaction? He's getting benched for Flacco. Is this a reaction to what he said and what he's done? They're going to say, no, it's not. But okay, you're the Colts. You're kind of in it in the AFC where there's really not, I think I counted 7 teams in the AFC have 2 wins or less. Like that's almost half the conference, meaning anyone else has a chance at a playoff spot, literally. And Indianapolis is one of those teams that has more than 2 wins. They are in the hunt. And so you can say Flacco gives us the best chance to win. I agree with you. I think the offense moves better with Joe Flacco. Certainly certain receivers become, more of a factor, actually touching the football and such. But then the flip side is, hey, well, you're not in a championship window here. Like, why aren't you developing this kid that, as we just said, hasn't played a lot in college or in the pro game? What's your side of this one? Are the Colts doing the right thing, and where are they focused this year or big picture?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, I feel, yes, you're in the playoff hunt and everything, and Flacco does give you the best chance to win because he can air the ball out, just like Anthony Richardson, but he does it. He's more of a game manager than Richardson is at this point. Yeah. And Shane Steichen wants to win games. So if you're in the hunt, I get the move, but at the same time, like, he's still so young. He's so raw. Like, you got to let him work out the kinks. He's not going to get better sitting on the bench.
So if he's not going to play this week and you're going to chase it with Joe Flacco, you're probably just committed to Flacco as long as you're in this race. How does Anthony Richardson get better? Maybe you become what we think you are, which is not a playoff team, and then you can play Richardson down the stretch. But it is an interesting spot for a franchise to be put in because you do have some pieces in their prime, the Jonathan Taylors, and Josh Downs has turned into a nice weapon. I can see them thinking about this year, but you can't just leave Anthony Richardson not playing football for another year. It's a very small number of games he's going to have played over the last 24 months if we get to the end of the year and it's still Flacco.
Yeah, maybe we'll see him kind of come in and out at spurts, like if they 4th and 1 or whatever, they'll throw Richardson in just because he's big body, big frame and stuff. But I mean, you're right. Like he's played so little football. I don't really understand the move. Like it doesn't make sense for a longevity perspective in my eyes.
And it's a Sunday night game. It's prime time. It's under the bright lights. They're in Minnesota to take on the Vikings, who only have the 1 blemish, 2 now on the season. That's a big spot. Maybe you're trying to protect them a bit from that. But again, I think Joe Flacco's almost too good to be a backup. We saw what he did in Cleveland last year, and he's an attractive guy to be a number 2. Why isn't he a 1 somewhere? Wherever he goes, like, no, this guy gives us the best chance to win. It's like, right. So why is he 2 on your depth chart?
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. I mean, I kind of love this whole Flacco story. You know, he was sitting on the couch at this point last season. Then he gets a call from the Browns and just completely electrifies that offense, earning him another role. You know, I mean, yeah, we just know what Flacco is. We don't know what Anthony Richardson is.
Right.
Let him work out the kinks.
Question for you guys.
Yeah.
Would you rather Richardson long-term or Bryce Young at this point?
Richardson, and it's not close.
I think Richardson, it is close because I really don't know that we know much about either yet. Like Bryce Young has had what? 1 bad season and 2 weeks to start this year. I mean, I didn't watch closely last week. I'll give you that. But, you know, it's not like Bryce Young has all these weapons and it isn't working. He just looks really green. And Richardson, it's like, man, I love these tools, but he can't stay healthy. And I don't know that he can run an offense so much as just haul it 60 yards or use his legs.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're terribly different, Jack.
No, I don't think so either. It's just interesting. It seems like a lot of these young quarterbacks are just being set up to fail almost.
Mm-hmm.
You see it every single
Coaching
year.
change in Carolina's tough, right? Yeah.
Bryce Young, Fields, Trey Lance, Richardson, like they're getting put in right away. It doesn't work. It's like on to the next.
And we're starting to see more teams like Michael Penix Jr., JJ McCarthy's due to injury, of course. Patty Mahomes, understudy.
Jordan Love.
Yeah, Jordan Love for a while. The Green Bay model is totally different. But if you let a guy get acclimatized to the NFL environment and let him go through that season ritual of, you know, we prepare and practice throughout the week. We build our game plan. We execute. We respond, take notes. We gather again. We do it again. Like, do that 17 times throughout the course of a year and watch someone who's perfected the job, or at least is one of the best 32 on earth at it. Then year 2, now you're the guy, but be able to learn from some of these guys. We've seen a lot of that around the league where it's been very beneficial. I do think that's a thing, Jack, where especially you can find some greener guys that don't play a lot of college, or now with the transfer portal, maybe they got stuck somewhere they didn't play, they move. Like, you're running a 3rd or 4th system in 3 or 4 years, and it's like, oh, well, he's not good. It's year 1, and it's like, wow, it's burnt. Like, literally that we think Bryce Young is no good. It just tells you how short the leash is for these guys. Bryce Young could be making his debut this week in another organization. If he's in Green Bay, he's still watching. He's holding the clipboard, right?
Yeah, I mean, I forgot about all those success stories, you know, with like, and how pivotal it is for the development of young quarterbacks to kind of sit on the bench, learn an offense, learn the NFL system and everything, because it's so much different from college. I mean, like, so maybe I guess this is kind of what they're hoping for, but it just seems a little weird because of his lack of NFL experience or football experience at that. So
it's a unique spot they're in. And I think it'd be easier to get back to the playoff point. Like, if the AFC chase looked like the NFC one, like, just leave Richardson and we'll let him learn about this league. It's similar spot, but different. Where Flacco took over and really steered a ship in the right direction last year was in the last half of the season in Cleveland, after Deshaun Watson, who was brutal, was done for the year. Well, it's happening again, but it's not Joe Flacco. It's famous Jameis, who I believe will be a Shakespearean actor on Broadway when he's done playing professional football. But Winston has turned this Cleveland team into they've got lots of tools, but Deshaun's ruining everything. And we talked about it a bunch, his foibles and, you know, ineffectiveness this season. And he's just slinging it. And they've moved out and away from Amari Cooper, and they come up with probably their best win of the season immediately after the change. And it's now 6 of 7 games, Flacco or Winston, that have come in after Deshaun's been ruled out for the year, injured or whatever it is, and they've thrown for 306 of those 7 games. Deshaun's done that 0 times in 19 games. It is incredible that, you know, something as simple as, just change the quarterback, which every fan's yelling at their TV all the time. In Cleveland, that's been the case for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, didn't fans cheer when Watson was hurt? Like, that just goes to show how much, like, you know, he was kind of hated in the fan base. But I don't know about you guys. I love Jameis Winston. He's just such a fun player to watch because he's a gunslinger. He doesn't care, but also he's just hilarious. Like, the post-game interviews, the clips you see when he's in the huddle and everything, just
it's a lot. I mean, I'd be happy to watch just the game film. I feel like it's fun once or twice, and you're like, are we gonna do this every week? Okay, I've got the quota. I've hit it. I'm good. You guys watch Winston. Let me know when kickoff happens. Right?
Yeah,
it's a lot, but it's a feel good story, right? He's a guy that, you know, it has always been. Yeah, I'll throw it up there. We'll see who comes down with the ball. I got receivers. You got guys that got put on defense because they can't catch. Like, he's absolutely Dante Culpepper reincarnated in terms of the incredibly high event. It's almost always a touchdown or a pick every time he lets it go. But now that offense is back, and now you're seeing them move the ball down the field. Now that defense can get at least a little bit of a breather, and now they're not out when they're down by one score or whatever it is. You don't need 2 onside kicks to win a game. Jameis in Cleveland, I do think that the rest of that team is good enough that, you know, it's still the AFC. We just said it. If you got more than 2 wins, you're not dead yet.
Yeah, I mean, do you still think they have a shot? I mean, Jameis looked great and everything, but are we still talking about it in the same light if Kyle Hamilton doesn't drop that ball for the interception late in the game?
Well, they're 2-6, so they got a steep climb. You just almost wished you saw it 2 weeks earlier, because it wouldn't be crazy to suggest they're 4-4 or 3-5, and in that spot, you're absolutely in this thing, right?
Yeah.
But look, they're going to be. They've always had the great defense. They're going to be competitive. And, you know, they got a Los Angeles club this week, the Chargers, that really aren't that dynamic or sexy. You know what they're going to try to do. Is it going to come down to who can make 1 or 2 more plays? Well, Jameis is going to haul one into the end zone and see what happens. I mean, I just like them so much more with Jameis. Jack, you're the big AFC North guy. You're the big Steelers fan. You've been down on the Browns being the Browns, and they have been the Browns, but they just look like an actual NFL franchise when they have him at quarterback, not Deshaun.
Yeah, you've seen it for the last 2 years now. Like we just talked about, Flacco came in and it just seems like a different football team. I don't know if there's something going on in the locker room. They don't like Winston. I wouldn't be, or not Winston, Deshaun. I wouldn't be surprised, but it seems like they're playing as a team more. They're just the whole team looks better. I don't know what it is, but I'm sick of Winston.
You're done with the Shakespearean actor?
I don't need to see that every week for the rest of the season, him going off about something.
Now, Tyson, you're in your 30s or 20s. I don't want to ID you and dox you entirely, but how old are you?
28.
Okay, and Jackson is mid-20s, let's say. You guys saw Braveheart, the movie?
No.
Yeah, okay, too young. See, this kids. You gotta watch the classics.
I'm not a movie buff. I just watch sports.
Not either, but I saw Braveheart. Mel Gibson, it's the impassioned speech as he leads, you know, his army to war against, you know, the king's British or, you know, English army or whatever. And it's just, not every game has to be the 5-minute epic monologue that gets everyone fired up. How many teammates are rolling their eyes in the pump up sort of huddle before the game this week? Okay, Jameis, like, we get it.
I mean, in the locker room, it must be annoying, you know, event like
it's got PK Subban vibes to me. It's just it's a lot.
It's fun if you're winning, but like
yes, good point.
If you're losing,
that's gonna get old quick.
Yeah,
it's a good call.
Another thing that you kind of touched on earlier, it was about, you know, the defense. The last few years, this Browns defense has been amazing. Like, it's been the strong suit of their entire team. But with Deshaun, they were getting nothing on offense. A lot of 3 and outs, a lot of sacks. So like
field position nightmare.
Yeah. And now the defense is gassed. They're tired because they're always on the field. So now with a competent quarterback, I feel like defense is more rested, especially in the last game against a tough Ravens opponent. So that's just going to boost team morale so much more. So I feel like they're, you know, kind of surrounding themselves. I don't know how to say this, but they're gelling with Jameis.
It looks like a competent team. It's just that they're starting behind the 8 ball. They were 1-6 when Jameis got to start, right? Like, so are they better? Absolutely. Are they going to be relevant? Well, you still need, that's a big hole to climb out of.
Yeah.
A wide receiver was traded and it wasn't to the Steelers. Jack, condolences. Not some prayers. How we doing? Another week, another receiver going to a non-Steeler team. In fact, in division. Ouch.
It's got to happen soon. Like, I guess Deontay couldn't go back to the Steelers, I was reading, since they traded him away. There's some sort of rule, but I mean, good pickup. Yeah, there is a rule where.
Oh, because he didn't leave as a free agent.
Yeah, I don't know what the rule is or what it's called, but he could not legally be traded back to
It's called the Deontay Johnson rule, and it was put in by Mike Tomlin last week. That's what it is.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. So if you trade a player, you can't trade for him back later on?
On the same contract. I don't know. Maybe if you eat salary or something. That's curious.
I'll do some
look into
Googling.
that.
put a pin in that one. Quickly though, thoughts on Baltimore, because they've run the ball even better than we could have imagined, which is crazy because they're Baltimore and they always commit to the run, and they added Derrick Henry, who, you know, is an immortal walking amongst actual men. And yet it's even better than you could have imagined with the run game. They're a little leakier on D than I thought, especially susceptible to the pass game. Mm-hmm. And Lamar is having a fantastic season, but suddenly now some questions about his health with back issues. And, you know, it is around this time of year, you start looking at all the heavy hits he's taking. What does the wide receiver add of Deontay Johnson do for the Ravens offense?
I mean, it gets them deeper for sure. They didn't really have a wide receiver 3, I guess. They came out and said that, you know, Deontay is going to act as the wide receiver 3 because Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman are performing at a top 20 wide receiver level on the year so far is what the quote was. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah. You know, I feel like, I don't know about Bateman, but Zay Flowers had a great year, but I feel like Deontay and Zay Flowers are kind of the same wide receiver in that sense. Like they're high reception guy, low A dot. So it was an interesting ad. It just makes them deeper, but they are a run first team. So I don't really know how it's all going to work, but I mean, it's a great ad. Let's not downplay that.
Let's go back to that AFC standings, Jack, because all of a sudden this is getting good. Your Steelers, so I keep railing on because they haven't played a tough schedule. Not their fault. They all of a sudden, if Lamar's going to miss a week or two, they're absolutely, you know, they're already in the driver's seat at 6-2. They played no divisional games yet. These two teams will play each other twice. That probably really determines it more than anything else. But if the Ravens go sans Lamar for a bit here, that's French for without advantage, Jack. Steelers even more.
Yeah, but as we alluded to this morning when we were talking, they have the hardest remaining schedule in the NFL.
Steelers' number one strength of schedule remaining, and that is, it means you've probably had some easy ones along the way, but they've got 6 divisional games still left.
And then the Commanders, Eagles, and I forget the last one, but yeah, that's not an easy schedule by any means. I definitely think it'll probably come down to those head-to-head games.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good move for the Ravens getting Deontay Johnson, but I think their defense is where most of their problems lay.
If they made a move on D, that wouldn't surprise you, would it?
No,
that's where the need's the greatest. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the AFC picture. Let's just stay there for a moment. The Chiefs remain undefeated. It's crazy. I mean, they don't look that good, but they sure do win every game they play. Mahomes is sort of having one of those years where the picks equal the touchdowns. That's not impressive, but you know, when he has the ball with 2 minutes left and a half, it's look out. You know where it's going to end up. Houston, we'll see what they can do tonight. They're obviously in New York to face the Jets. This is the principal matchup we'll be talking about for the remainder of the show. At 6-2, it's a great mark. Now they just have to survive the injury bug. When will they get Nico Collins back? Can they figure out a way to win down 2 of their best receivers? Stephon Diggs is done for the year. We'll see against a good Jets pass defense tonight what the Houston Texans offense looks like. And then the Buffalo Bills are just chilling. They're cool. Like they got nothing in the form of a threat in the AFC East. Miami's toast. The Jets are brutal. Again, maybe they aren't tonight, but it's a huge hole for them. And the Patriots are clearly in the throes of a long rebuild here. That's kind of the storyline. And then look at the wild cards. 4-3. Gets you the last one. That's the Chargers. The Colts at 4-4 in there. Cincinnati lurking. And I don't know that they don't have more talent than some of the teams above them here. It's just that ugly start. So that's kind of it. There's going to be some mediocre teams in the wild card in the AFC, I think, Tyson, including your Broncos. Jeez, look at that.
Look at us go.
Yeah, us. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
I mean, you're there too. Let's not forget that. Come on.
I'm not anywhere. I'm in Calgary. I do not work for the Chargers. I'm not on payroll. I don't know what sort of data work you're doing for the Broncos, but congratulations on the hot start.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You know, I'll take all these wins. I believe we're 4-1 our last 5, or no 5. Yeah, 5-1. We're rolling right now, but playing the Ravens this week. So. I mean,
we'll learn more
about that game. It just kind of smells like, you know, bounce back for the Ravens in a pretty good spot against a kind of weaker Broncos, but
with, again, the wild card and the caveat being Lamar's health.
Yeah.
Josh Johnson starting at quarterback. I like those Broncos.
Yeah, that defense will rip them up for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at the playoff picture, I definitely can see a path for the Bengals to sneak in. You know, they're not that far out of it yet. They had a rough start, but you know, their offense is starting to look a lot better. They just need to figure it out on defense. But I mean, I could see either of the Chargers or the Broncos kind of falling out and Bengals moving up.
Totally agree with that. I don't know. You get 3 AFC West teams in there. That just seems logistically difficult unless they're great teams, and I don't think they're great teams. Let's go to the NFC picture. Let's take a look what's going on where, you know, it's a lot more competitive at the bottom. You've got Detroit as the clear leader of the pack at 6-1. Washington has been impressive, although there's a Hail Mary in there. Man, Jaden Daniels is a baller. He's fun to watch. We weren't sure about the Falcons. They look like they're starting to use their weapons more than they did last year. Kyle Pitts is not a non-factor. You got Bijan, London. It's an intriguing offense that Kirk Cousins is running, which is better than Desmond Ridder, as we expected. And the Cardinals are one of 4 teams in the NFC West that could win that division. If you look down below, it's the Seahawks, it's the Niners, and even the Rams, who picked up a win last week on Thursday, are very much in the mix for that division. Everyone knows the Niners have the best roster, but they also have the most injuries. NFC is certainly a lot more fascinating with how things might end up with a lot of teams above 500 or at 500. I like the caliber of the wild cards in the NFC a lot more than the AFC.
For sure. This is going to be such an entertaining kind of stretch to see who really solidifies himself in the wild card there, because, I mean, the 49ers aren't in the playoffs right now. The Seahawks have looked pretty good. They're not in the playoffs right now. The Bears with Caleb Williams, their defense looks phenomenal outside of a Hail Mary Tyreek Stevenson. What are you doing? It's going to be exciting. I mean, who would have thought that the Commanders would be second in the NFC?
Nobody. And that's why it's fun. I mean, it's a great underdog story, and it's the rookie quarterback. What are we going to get? No idea. You know, a lot of tools. We'll see. You know, how do they go with Bryce Young? How do they go with Anthony Richardson? Like, some of these guys will be busts. Some of them will be stars. It's looking really good for the Jaden Daniels star stock at this point. The other note I should make in there, the NFC North, look how good this division is. You got Detroit, top team in the conference, Green Bay and Minnesota, 6-2, 5-2. That would be good enough to lead other divisions, but they have to go into the wild cards because they're the same division. And then, you know, the Chicago, they're right there as well. Like that might be the best division in football with 4 teams knocking on the door of a playoff spot.
Yeah, I think it has to be. And like we were talking, you can't really see, 3 AFC West teams making the playoffs. I can definitely see 3 NFC North teams.
Totally.
Maybe 4. Like, who knows what the Bears do down the stretch. But, I mean, that's something we've obviously never seen, especially with the 7th wildcard position coming into play. But I wanted to kind of touch on the Falcons because, like you said, they're phenomenal. Their offense is completely turned around on the back of Kirk Cousins. They've got all their weapons, and now they're starting to finally utilize them. But I think now it's kind of over. The Saints, they won the 2-week Super Bowl.
That's right. They're so good, 2-0. Congrats.
So good. They got the Panthers in their division, but the Bucs, you lose Mike Evans for I don't know how long, Godwin for the whole season. So I think it's kind of the Falcons division to lose at this point. So I think they're solidified in their spot.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Let us move. We mentioned Lamar. We have an injury update for tonight's game. Again, it is Houston at the Jets. Jets favored by 2.5. The over-under set at 42.5. Let's throw up the odds for tonight's contest. I was surprised by this line, and I know, Tyson, at first glance, you were as well. Jack is less surprised the more he's looked into this. Is that fair to say, Jack, that, the more you look at this matchup, the more it makes sense today rather than a month ago, for example?
Yeah, from my position, the Jets are at home. They feel due to me. I don't, and that doesn't make sense with the way they've been playing, but it's week 3 of Rodgers and Adams. I feel like that's probably where the money's coming. And the Texans have all these injuries on the offense.
See, that's the big one for me. The Texans can't play the way they want to. When they start the season with Dell, Collins, and Diggs, it's like, all right, and Schultz at the tight end. It's like, who are you going to cover, boys? Because we got a playmaker that we can get open. And I just wonder about that now. Are they going to be able to throw the ball when they want to? And maybe against the Jets team that's superb against the pass, that's why we see this. But at first glance, I was like, well, why isn't Houston favored? And then you're like, well, yeah, they are really dinged up. And to your point, okay, Devontae, you're not new here anymore. It's been you're 2.5 weeks in the system here. You should know what the hell you're doing. And it looked like Garrett Wilson and Rodgers started to be on the same page the last couple of weeks more than the rest of the year.
I mean, that's a big storyline because, when it was just Garrett Wilson, he was normally sometimes double covered, but he was definitely getting the number one cornerback. But now with Devontae there, like he's taken away a lot of, the defensive coverage, which has really opened up everything for Garrett Wilson. And he looks like the best wide receiver on the field when Adams is out there as well. So if he can continue that tonight, I mean, we'll see. Derek Stingley's pretty good. He'll probably be on Adams, but it just seems like there's a Devontae Adams game coming. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Tonight.
No, it's true. I mean, if Alan Lazard can have the games this in 2024, of course Devontae Adams can with his old pal Aaron Rodgers. It's 5 losses in a row for the Jets. I don't know that they have a bad loss in there though, because the Steelers are a division leader. The Patriots last week was the bad one, but the others are like Denver's tough, I guess. Minnesota's a good team. Buffalo's a good team. Pittsburgh's probably a playoff team. Niners are a playoff team. That's 5 of their 6 losses. It's really last week that was the implosion that had people going on 2-minute tirades on sports talk radio in the States, just shredding everything about the organization. But there is a disaster and dysfunction quotient around the Jets. They fired their head coach. They removed play calling abilities from their offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. They're finding ways to lose. Their kicker's been brutal. Are those the sign of a team that just don't got it this year and we're dysfunctional, we don't like showing up to work, we're never going to be the sum of all our parts? Or are they due to, get straightened out in the kicking game? It really is interesting because they lost to the Patriots, but outside of that, it's not a bad. They played a pretty tough schedule.
Yeah, it's a tough schedule, and they've kind of been in a lot of the games. Outside of week 1, that was kind of brutal. That was a blowout, but they were in it to start. But it's just got to be Rodgers, I think. He's not himself. You can tell. I think last week they came out. I forget who on the Patriots came out and said this, but he's not what he used to be.
Right.
If 300-pound defensive lineman can catch up to an Aaron Rodgers trying to escape the pocket, you got a little issue there. So,
sure.
I mean, it's like I said earlier, the Jets are going to jet, and that's continuing on this season.
Meanwhile, the Houston Texans have piled up some injuries, but have won 4 of their last 5. The loss was a last-second field goal in Lambeau, which, that's probably a good team. It looks certainly through 8 weeks like they're a good team in Green Bay. And the Minnesota Vikings beat them in week 3 pretty badly. We thought that was a bad loss, but then Minnesota reeled off, was undefeated through week 5. So I like the makeup of this group. It feels like a team that we've seen go to the playoffs with a young quarterback. Are they due for regression? Nah, I'm not there at all. But how do they adapt around some of the injuries they're missing? The significant one, Diggs done for the season, ACL, and Nico Collins has a hamstring issue. He's on IR, which means he's not eligible to come back still for a bit. That's sort of the Houston side, the visitor tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nico Collins is set to return week 10, so next week.
Okay. Well, that'd be good.
But yeah, I mean, what does CJ? He's always had weapons, but now what are you going to do when you take them all away? Because I mean, Diggs, we thought kind of, Tank Dell was kind of still going to assume that wide receiver 2 role when Diggs came in, and he as he's at the end of his career, might be a shell of himself, but he was actually performing really, really well and became the wide receiver 1 when Nico Collins went down. But we haven't seen anything out of Tank Dell yet. He scored a touchdown last week, and he caught all 4 of his targets, but he's just not getting the targets. So now in a matchup against Sauce Gardner, are we really expecting him to go off? I'm not really sure.
Houston's been under in 6 of their 8 games this year. That's of note because you think high-flying offense when you think of them. Okay. Mm-hmm. And other trends in terms of betting, Jets haven't just lost 5 in a row. It's 5 against the spread too. So they've been worse than expected in 5, not just losing in 5. Mm-hmm. Also, they're 1-3 against the spread in prime time, i.e. Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays. It's a Thursday today. So make what you will of that. Let's head over to Jack for the injury updates on both sides. We alluded to a couple of the big ones on the Texans, but why don't you fill us up, round us out with the rest of the Texans, I guess, injury ward.
Yeah, we'll start with the Texans here. Like you said, Collins, Diggs out. Those are the big ones. So you're going to see a wide receiver room of Mechie. Hutchinson stepped in and played the most snaps last week when Diggs went out, playing 62% of the snaps. Robert Woods, the vet, you'll see in the slot a bit, and then Tank Dell is obviously their number one. Damian Pierce, the backup running back, is out this week.
Right.
He only had one carry last week. So you're going to see a lot of Joe Mixon, who's been very, very good the last couple of weeks since he returned from injury. Jarrett Patterson, their left guard, is also out. And then on the defensive side, Aziz Shahir, outside linebacker, Jimmy Ward out as well at safety. So they missed the last couple of weeks. Nothing new there on that front.
Jets, what are they looking at? They seem pretty healthy relatively. Where's Quinnen Williams at? Because I know that was scary last week when he got dinged up.
Yeah, he's good to go.
Good news.
With the Jets, they just sent Lazard to the IR.
That's
So
today. That's by the way, Tyson. That we had that made
So
official.
he'll miss 4 games at least. CJ Mosley out again. This is where they're banged up on the right side of their offensive line. Morgan Moses, their right tackle, he's questionable. Elijah Tucker, their right guard, is out. So that right side of the offensive line is banged up. And then both starting safeties who went out in that Pittsburgh game a couple weeks back, Tony Adams and Ashton Davis, also out. So they're banged up in the secondary a bit.
Interesting. Okay. So if we're seeing Breece Hall, I'm imagining him on the left side of the line, not the right. Our pal Joe Gallant from the Action Network. He's our anytime touchdown prop guy. The Touchdown Show with Joe Gallant on the Action Network every weekend. You can check that one out. Go find him on the social medias or check him out on the Action Network's shows on their YouTube. He's got CJ Stroud for an anytime touchdown. Not throwing, obviously, but rushing. He got 3 last year. It's plus 600 on Bet Victor. It's a big number. And if you sort of extrapolate the numbers, plus 600 implied percentage of 14%. Yeah, three a year. Okay, I see some value there. That makes sense to me. So maybe it's today that CJ down some weapons, tighten the red zone. All right, let's try a sneak. He doesn't use his legs a ton, but he's not a small man.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. Like, there's a lot of weapons that are missing. I mean, Joe Mix has been great, but you kind of expect him to get the bulk of the work, and especially in the red zone. So why not run, like a play action, but CJ runs it in. Like, I could definitely see that. And a plus 600 odds on Bet Victor, that's pretty good value.
Let's check into your data. How do these defenses perform against positional groups? Tyson, you mock this up every week for us. You get the beakers and the Bunsen burners in the laboratory. You're cooking up bets every week. Look at all the red here. Did someone spill wine all over your Saving Thursday NFL defense sheet here? Why is it so red here? What the hell's happening, Tyson?
Well, it's Halloween, had to put a little blood on everything, but it's ugly, fellas. Like, these two defenses are no joke. I mean, Texas defense 2 years ago, terrible. This year and last year, pretty dang good, especially with D'Amico Ryans coming over. I mean, just look at all the red. There's 4 different categories, and this is so rare that 4 different categories that the team allows the least amount of yards. Like, if you look at the wide receivers against the Jets, allow the 32nd most, allow the 32nd most receptions, receiving yards. I can't exactly see the number. I believe it's 108.
108
receiving yards, which is very low, and especially with a depleted wide receiver room in Houston, I can't see him, working that well against this offense. But the Texans allow nothing pretty much to the tight ends. They allow, 21 receiving yards and like 2 to 3 catches per game. It might be an ugly one tonight, fellas. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's when I see that much red, I love unders, but you guys, you love the challenge of still finding the overs. And yeah, we know that some of the stuff is cooked into the props. But you're right. It's the best defense against wide receivers that the Jets have in terms of yards and receptions. It is the best defense that Houston has against tight ends for receptions and receiving yards. Those are going to be really tough spots to find overs that work. So where are we hunting for our props of the week this week, Tyson?
Well, originally I kind of looked into Joe Mixon because looking at the Jets against the run, we've kind of seen that throughout the entire season. They were getting cooked, but it's kind of gotten a little bit better. And Joe Mixon's line's over 80, and I typically don't play that because that's just too many for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to attack little tight end action, not on the Jets side, but on the Houston side, because like we mentioned, they are pretty banked up. They don't have a lot of weapons. Nico Collins out, Diggs is out. You've got a lot of kind of like, you got Robert Woods, Bobby Trees, who's, little little older now. He's not getting much run.
They're tertiary pieces they've got now, right? You've
Yeah.
elevated some guys from guy status into having to play some significant roles for this offense.
For sure. I mean, Xavier Hutchinson, John Mechie, they're all right, but Dalton Schultz now will for sure assume the secondary option as a weapon in this offense, especially tonight. And with Tank Dell kind of lining up against Sauce Gardner, I really feel like Schultz will do well. So we're going to be taking his over 43 receiving yards. He's only cleared it once, but it was last week, and he was used a lot more kind of down the stretch once Diggs went out. So I don't mind that. I believe he had 58 yards last week, but also, the Jets are decent against tight ends. Their category was red, so on the bottom half of the league. But over the last 3 weeks, they've allowed Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, Pat Freiermuth, Dalton Kincaid, and Dawson Knox all to go over their receiving yards line. So that's kind of why I'm targeting him. 43 yards is pretty high, especially after how bad he's been throughout this season. But I mean, as a number 2 option, I feel like. And another thing. The Jets are favored, which I thought was a little bit surprising given the record. They're 2-6. Texans are 6-2.
Yeah.
But is Vegas trying to tell us something? So does that mean the Jets are going to look pretty good finally and start to lead, and then CJ Stroud is going to have to pass the ball more, especially against a hard wide receiver matchup? So why not use the tight end?
I totally think it's all about the triage of I want to get the ball to my best players, but when 2 of those guys are missing in the form of Collins and Diggs, there's going to be a lot more times where the second look or even the first look is going to be at Dalton Schultz for CJ Stroud. And it's going to be a tough game for Tank Dell to get things done because he's going to be draped with one of the best corners in the game on a defense that's been the hardest to accumulate passing yards against. Now, maybe some of that's game script. The Jets have lost 6. It means the other teams are running the ball late, but still, if you look at this Jets team and say, what are they good at? You'd say defending the pass. So I think there's going to be a lot of eyes to Schultz. If he can get open, he's going to get lots of targets here.
Yeah, for sure. I love the spot. I think he'll do well. And I'm expecting a lot of Joe Mixon, but if that comes with some play action, usually the tight end's going to be streaming down the field a little open. So I'd love that spot for Schultz.
Let's go to our next bet. It is a running back in the Jets backfield, but maybe not the one you anticipate. Walk us through your second prop of the week.
Braylon Allen to go over his rushing yards. So I know, why are we taking a backup running back? But he's been surprisingly utilized so far this season. And
it's been in waves, which is interesting. Some games you're like, oh my goodness, Braylon Allen, he's a threat to Breece Hall's, snaps and carries. And then other weeks it's crickets. And so when you had the Braylon Allen over 21 rushing yards, I just said, okay, tell me why. Because I don't see it at first glance, but I haven't, I've been in the lab all week cooking. You made a really nice point about what day of the week it is here.
Yeah, for sure. So we've already seen the Jets play on Thursday night. They played against the Patriots, I believe, week 2. So what did we see in that game? We saw Breece Hall get his normal workload, 16 carries for 54 yards, but Braylon Allen also worked himself in there. He had 11 carries for 55 yards. So he actually outrushed Breece Hall, which was surprising to see. But I just think short week, Breece Hall, he's still coming off an ACL. It's 2 years removed, so he should be fully healthy. But, there is that little bit of risk. It's not like he's 100% before any of the injuries. So on a short week, why not give it to your your backup running back who's looked very, very good this season? Yeah. And also Jack alluded to this. Azeez Al-Shaair, I believe is how you pronounce it. He's out, and he's the 12th highest PFF graded run stuffer in the league. Yeah. So if he's out, hopefully Braylon Allen will run to the left side because the right side of the Jets offensive line is a little banged up. But I feel like this line's pretty low considering what we'll see tonight.
Yeah. And I like the short week thing because you absolutely have seen games where they're Braylon Allen's there if we need him. We don't need him. We're not giving him the ball, but it's Thursday. This is still a practice day in a normal NFL cycle of a week. It's not anywhere near game day, but it is for these two teams. So go to the more rested Braylon Allen, lower your sort of, I guess, ask of Breece Hall physically just 4 days after he's played. I like that Allen on the short week call, and 21's we could see him rip that off in two carries. He's been that effective. I think his line was 9 yards in week 2 or 3, and his first carry was for 11. You're like, there it is. Okay, that no sweat there. cash that baby in the first series of the game. So, if he's going to get any sort of volume, I'm not worried about that total.
For sure. And I mean, I was just going to say that last week he had 12 carries. So he was still even used. And that was his first since that Thursday night game when he had 11. The last few weeks, he's only had 2, 3, 5. So like not too much. But I mean, if you're working him in already with 12 carries last week, I feel like we'll get a little bit of the same tonight.
Your final bet is a total. You like the under tonight on 42.5. That is our game total on Bet Victor. And it is a game where if you close your eyes back in spring and imagine the Jets and the Texans, and then you said, oh, by the way, they're going to get Devontae Adams. You're like, oh my God, like set this thing at 58.5. Like this is shoot out the lights. But when you start factoring in these injuries, the O-line for the Jets ain't great. It's going to make life harder for Breece Hall with those injuries. Certainly CJ Stroud's passing options are going to be much more limited than they would be at full health. It all starts to make a little more sense now. Even Lazard being done, heading to IR, that was a very comfortable possession, third down, go get the yards guy for Aaron Rodgers. Primetime unders have been a very nice play for the last couple of years, and I think this one matches that bill.
Yeah, I mean, like you alluded to, primetime unders, they've hit like crazy. I believe it was upwards of 70% last season, but over the last 5 years, it's hitting at 60%. So that's a massive edge. So that's why I definitely like it. I mean, if like you alluded to, the Texans have gone under in 6 out of 8 games so far this year, and now you're missing all your offensive weapons. What can CJ Stroud really do against a tough defense? Sorry. And then, I mean, we haven't seen it out of the Jets. They haven't been able to put it together, although they have gone over in 3 straight games, but I'm thinking there's a little bit of regression coming here, like maybe the defense really steps up and really limits the Texans, but I'm just excited. I haven't bet a primetime under yet, but I know they're so profitable. So it's been
fun if you've been doing it. Yeah. There was one other thing I wanted to look at. Like, if you want to describe a path for me to how the Texans can control and win this game, it's a lot of Joe Mixon, or at least running the ball. Like, they just have to do that. When you're doing that, you're shortening the game. The clock continues to run. It's not, whistle, stop the clock, whistle, stop the clock. That kind of plays into unders too, in a sense, right? Like, if Houston's going to make a very concerted effort to run the ball, it's going to start looking like a Chargers game where it's like, how are we already at the end of the first quarter? Well, because everyone's running the ball and no one wants to pass it. That helps an under. Yeah, for sure. It's just bleeding all the clock. And Joe Mixon, like, outside of Nico Collins, he's been their best offensive weapon. So phenomenal. Now when you don't have anybody really, except for Tank Dell, who's really underperformed, why are you not going to just continuously feed him the rock? And I mean, like you said, hopefully the clock will, run down as much as possible. I could see it really being a run heavy game on either side. Yeah. Well, if Breece can have success, that's a really easy way. Braylon Allen. And Braylon. Yes, of course. Yeah, we'll see. It's a fun one. Let's throw them up again, Jack. Our 3 props / picks of the week. Dalton Schultz, over 43 yards, the tight end for the Texans. We'll get some increased volume is what we're thinking. He's got to get over 43. It's a big number, but man, they're down some big time weapons and a lot of targets have to go somewhere. Braylon Allen, over 21 rushing yards. Feed that young man the ball and you give him 4 or 5 carries. I say he gets there. And then under on the total of 42.5. That is a -108. Those the 3 bets of our week for Saving Thursday over on Bet Victor. Fellas, we'll go around the horn to close the week. What is Saving Sunday or the weekend for you as we look ahead to the Week 9 slate? I'm really excited about this Detroit Lions Green Bay Packers matchup. I feel like I'm happy to start because I feel like that was what everybody was going to say. It's top of my list. Yeah, it's got one of the highest over/under totals on the week. I mean, you just look at, we showed the standings earlier, 6-1 for the Lions, 6-2 for the Packers. It should be a bloodbath. I believe whoever wins is first probably in the NFC, depending on how the Commanders do, but should be a really big game. The only worry is what's going on with Jordan Love. Is he going to play? He got hurt last week. Malik Willis is 3-0 when he's come in and been the starter or came in for relief of Jordan Love. So, I mean, they might be able to
figure it out with him. But against this Lions team, I mean, did you see what they did last week? Like they over 50 points and Jared Goff threw under 100 passing yards or something like that. Like, how does that happen?
It's a great game. Anytime you can go to Lambeau this time of year, I love it too. I'm looking at the forecast. It's not below 0, but it's windy and it's going to be a little bit wet. I mean, this just feels like NFC North football, and the Lions are built for that division, right from the kneecap biter Dan Campbell down through, the physical running backs and Amon-Ra. Like it is a strong, physical football club. And now you go to the stadium that maybe feels like one of the most challenging physical environments for opposing teams, the huge bowl, the weather, the wind. And honestly, we had a classic last week pretty much, or it was a couple weeks ago where Green Bay, they won against Houston on the final kick. I love Detroit Green Bay this weekend, Jack. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's definitely the game of the week for sure.
Why didn't they flex that into Sunday night, by the way? We got Washington flexed into Sunday night instead with it's Indianapolis.
No, it's the Colts Vikings.
Minnesota, Indianapolis got flexed, not Washington. I don't know why I said Washington.
Yeah, it should be.
Why are we not doing Lambeau Field for primetime Sunday night?
Should have, could have, would have.
Low-hanging fruit. Like, you got to go with that one, right?
There's got to be something we don't understand about how they make this decision, because it's clear-cut best game of the week. And if they could have flexed it to Sunday and didn't, like, someone needs to lose their job. But go ahead, Jack. What do you like this weekend?
Yeah, another game I'm looking at here is the Cowboys traveling to Atlanta. This has the highest over-under of the week, 51.5 right now. It's kind of an interesting spot for the Cowboys. Like, do they just roll over and die here now? Yeah. I don't know. It feels like it's Dak, it's CD, and who else on that offense? And then the defense is just not the same as what it was with Parsons. I think Bland's coming back maybe this week, but they've just been so disappointing this year. And then we talked about Atlanta earlier. They feel like they're kind of looks like
stride. They're looking a little legit on offense.
Kyle Pitts had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Drake London looks like an alpha now.
Bijan Robinson. So they're clicking. The Cowboys are falling apart. Feels like a very much they got to go into Atlanta and surprise some people this week if they want to keep their season alive. So that's what I'm excited for. 11 o'clock on Sunday.
One other note, I know he's kind of a forgotten man, but Jonathan Brooks was the highest running back selected, and I think the only one in the first round in the draft this summer. Carolina could activate him this weekend. He is recovering from an ACL or an Achilles in college, and has been on the NRI list, the non-rostered injury list. They've opened the practice window. It wasn't last week, but that would be interesting, because all of a sudden there's thought that maybe Chuba Hubbard would be available for acquisition. So it could be, you like seeing the rookie debuts. It might not be as fun as Malik Neighbors, and Carolina certainly isn't as smooth as some of these other offenses, but that's a very, very high pedigree running back that might make his NFL debut this weekend.
For sure. And I mean, everybody's excited for that, but I would temper expectations. Look at where the Panthers are in the standings. They're not competing this year. That's for sure. So, and Chuba Hubbard has been phenomenal this year, I believe, for most of the season.
Which is why I wonder. Because, again, if the O-line can block for him, maybe a star is born. Maybe he's just a guy. We'll see. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a first-rounder. We've all forgotten about him already. I had to stumble for his name. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what he is potentially as soon as this weekend. Maybe it's next weekend. We'll wait and see. Mm-hmm. Final throwaway for you, fellas. Halloween tonight. Make sure you fill that pillowcase full of candy. I'll be out with my boys. And if you happen to be going by Myles Garrett's house, you will know this is his annual quarterback cemetery, and apparently bigger than better than ever. He's got the divisional guys featured prominently. There's Joe Burrow, the skeleton. Lamar's hanging over that old rusty fuel can. And it's not there's Josh Allen's in trouble there. Mahomes and Tua. Oh,
Steelers. Where's the
Steelers? I think is on the ground with the yellow pants by the Jets helmets. So that's a nice neighborhood. If you swing through there, Tyson, say hi to Myles Garrett first, would you?
Yeah, I'll stop by. No problem.
And then this isn't one of my kids, but this kid has one Halloween. He's got the Mike McDaniel costume, which is pretty awesome.
Costumes and Halloween is you. Kids wearing, I've seen it posted on social media, kids dressing up as Mike McDaniel.
That does not compute. That doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
I have the video if you want to see it.
They did your run on Sunday Night Football. One kid did the run, and then a fan last night.
Was it faster than the
So
kid?
I'm just curious, what, as you see it, goes into dressing up like Mike McDaniel?
I have no idea.
on the
This is I refuse to accept that as reality. So I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, you know what? We should interview the kid. He would have the answers that they asked. Mike just didn't want any part of that. But that's a hell of a costume. Good work, young man. Well done. Fellas, enjoy the game tonight. It is, Texans Jets. Who would have thought a 2-6 team would be favored by nearly a field goal over a 6-2 team? But it's football, baby. Enjoy it. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching.